Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video here today, and another F1 2020 game experiment. Now, last week, we maxed out the Mercedes car for the first time on this game, and I told you guys that hopefully we'd try and do this for the top 3 teams at least, and maybe some of the other midfield teams, but of course, I did explain to you guys the difficulty in this year's game with maxing out these cars, with the way the driver career mode now works in F1 2020, but I'm happy to say nothing went wrong at this time round. When we tried Red Bull, we actually got through it. I didn't waste a whole day basically trying to record it in the background and get it maxed out. And today we do have a maxed out Red Bull racing car for you from F1 2020 career mode. And as per usual, we will be comparing it to the Mercedes car and the My Team one, all the cars we've maxed out so far, you know, in terms of the actual performance chart, so you guys can literally physically, visually see the difference on paper, what the numbers are calculating these things to on the performance chart. And then also, as per usual, we're going to also do a little quick race in the maxed out car to really see how it feels, because car to car, there's no doubt in my mind that each car does have its unique characteristics and way of driving and feeling, and that will still be kind of present even when you get to a maxed out car. And so in that kind of way, as I said, the Mercedes car, even though it was slower than the My Team car, actually quite considerably in terms of the R&D chart, it felt actually so much better because the base car was obviously starting so high, being Mercedes, and My Team starting so low. And so that's why I'm curious today with Red Bull how that's going to feel, because in real life we know how highly strong this Red Bull car is and how much of a diva of a car basically it is, because Albon hasn't got on top of it the entire season. Verstappen is just Verstappen, a bit of an enigma, and I personally feel he drags the car up a little bit higher than what it can actually comfortably do, because it is such an on the knife edge. You know, as soon as you're outside that operating window or setup or where it's comfortable, it likes to snap at you. And we saw that plenty actually at early doors in the 2020 season, in pre-season, and throughout the entire season actually. It was always a very lively car each corner. So it's going to be curious to see how that actually feels for me to drive once it's maxed out, but we have to actually get to that. So we start the journey then of maxing out the car. Now, unlike Mercedes, we do not have the luxury of having every single HQ facility on level 3. We've got level 3 on the aero chassis, and on the durability and the engine, we're on level 2. So durability we don't really care about. That's not going to be factoring into the maxed out actual performance bar on the actual R&D graph, and neither will it actually affect anything out on track. So all we really care about is the engine department. Now, that is going to be the sticking point of maxing out this car, is we're effectively just going to have to wait. This is the annoying part of this year trying to do these experiments, is it's a complete random number generation of when my AI employers basically upgrade the HQ facilities. In the background, the game is calculating money it probably generates by doing the results, but we don't see any of that. Essentially, the mechanics you get in My Team, they're there in driver career mode, but you just don't get to see any of them, and they're all done by the AI computer that employs you for whatever team you're driving for. So in our case, we're having to wait till we get level 3 in the engine to fully max this out. Doesn't mean right now we can't make progress. Of course, you can see we're going and, you know, upgrading the car as much as we can, getting through at least the aero and chassis side of the R&D tree. Now, very much like Mercedes, even though, yeah, we might have to wait a bit for the engine side, again, it's actually quite quick to get through the R&D tree, being one of the top 3 teams. Obviously, having 1 million R&D points helps, but, you know, having most of the HQ facility upgrades helps out a lot of reducing the time it takes to make upgrades. And so to that effect, by the time we get to the kind of Dutch Grand Prix part of the year calendar, we're doing a shortened season, but remember, in-game, the calendar still counts all the days. So this would usually be, you know, where the Dutch Grand Prix normally is. It's not like it's been moved anywhere in the calendar year of 365 days in the game. So by the time we get to the Dutch Grand Prix, however way you want to look at it, we've made a massive step forward, even steeper than we made with the Mercedes team, which is very odd. We kind of started a bit slower than Mercedes, kind of going from Australia to Bahrain. It wasn't as steep of an improvement straight away off the bat, but then once everything kind of wound up, basically, we kind of knocked it out of the park, and we started going so high, and we're pretty much, I would say, a race away here in this shortened calendar, away from being already a field spread above higher, and we're already at 900 on the left-hand side of the performance chart, so that just tells you how much closer we are already to the maxed out car, basically. So we go through the motions then of continuing to upgrade the chassis and the aero. At the same time, also, I was trying my best to try and, you know, force the team's hand to upgrade the engine engine. So every time we won races, every time I was doing qualifying sessions, because of course, like I mentioned to you guys in the Mercedes video, behind the scenes, I've had to basically do qualifying and do 5-lap races and actually just go out there and do the 5 laps quickly against zero AI and just win it to make sure that I don't get fired, because that was the issue of when I tried to do these experiments 2 months ago, and why it's taken so long for them to finally come out on the channel is because I was getting fired due to just the really stupid game mechanics, basically, of the contract system. So whilst doing that, during the interviews, I'm always constantly saying, oh, the engine's been good, the department's good, we might need to keep on developing the engine, just trying to force their hand. Unfortunately, though, that wasn't exactly happening for me. So we get towards literally the end of the season, we get a regulation change, which is not going to be an issue. Obviously, we have 1 million R&D points, so I can rebuy everything, but we're at the end of season 1 of this save of this Red Bull team, and we're not maxed out yet, and the engine is still on level 2. And for the Red Bull team, I don't know about other teams, but for the Red Bull team, level 2 to 3 is a massive difference. Like, level 2 with Red Bull and the engine, you hardly have anything done on the R&D tree, and then you get to level 3 and everything is unlocked. So it's very much a kind of diminished return right until the end, and then you struck gold or diamonds or whatever, however you want to say it, basically, with Red Bull Honda. I don't know if they on purpose made it like that because they feel like Honda's going to be like that in real life, or they were kind of like that in real life, I guess, in a way. But that was at least a unique thing that I found quite interesting, picking up from doing this experiment versus the Mercedes team. And then, of course, my team, it's very different. The R&D trees are unique to each team, apart from if you obviously do just my team every single season. But to the other F1 teams, they're all unique trees, so they all look a little bit different. So it was a little bit odd and kind of cool to see Red Bull be that different when it came to that. But finally, just before the Australian Grand Prix in our Season 2 then of this save, the upgrade comes in. We are going to get Spec level 3 there on the powertrain, so we can finally now max out this car in the kind of first quarter. But you can see here, now we open up plenty of the tree, and so that's 1, 2, 6, 7 upgrades that are only, you're only able to do once you get to level 3. Now, I think 1 or 2 of them aren't technically actually hidden when you've got Spec level 2, but you need to get Spec level 3 to get to that part of the tree, so essentially they're locked off. So it felt very top heavy with the Red Bull team when it came to the engine side, but I guess maybe that's a little bit more realistic and a bit relative to the Mercedes team, a bit more realistic, I guess, in terms of Honda, you know, having to work so much harder to get to that very end. But then once they do, they strike gold and kind of have all those upgrades in a flurry at the end. So anyway, to our delight, obviously we get those upgrades done eventually. A few failing along the way, but eventually they will come through. And we pretty much get to just, I think, after the Monaco Grand Prix, and we've got everything maxed out because it took a while for the last final engine ultimate upgrades to come in. But you can clearly see we've got a nearly fully maxed out, because we nearly maxed out the durability part, obviously minus the kind of AI upgrades that are in kind of the smaller icons there. But you can see that tree in all its glory, and now you can see the chart as well maxed out, and it looks like here, eyeballing it, we're about at 1,050, so very close to what Mercedes. I think we said Mercedes was probably 1,050 as well. It's hard to tell. So what I've done is I've overlaid all 3 graphs on top of one another. Had to scale up the Red Bull one because the Red Bull graph was actually a little bit scaled, a little bit smaller than the Mercedes and my team, which were the exact same actually, quite handily. But scaling them up and then kind of putting them overlapping each other, you can clearly see there the Red Bull maxed out car is pretty much like a pixel here below the Mercedes team. So they're near enough the same in terms of pure on-paper performance index chart. And then the My Team car, which is in red there, still reigns supreme. So far we've done 2 of the official F1 teams, and the My Team car is still reigning supreme by just maybe 10 performance index points. But now it's time to see how this car drives in actual reality. So we're going to go to the French Grand Prix. I thought we'd have a little bit of a difference and want to do Austria all the time for the race, because you guys are just going to see Austria then every single time. So I thought we'd do the race at Paul Ricard. It's obviously a testing ground we were familiar with when it comes to F1 experiments. I'm usually used to in the past, though, you know, basically breaking the game when we come to Paul Ricard and doing experiments. This time, though, I think all we'll be breaking some track records maybe compared to the kind of normal cars around us that are not Red Bull. But just as usual, it's going to be a 5-lap race because that's all we really need with this maxed out car versus a normal grid that have not had the luxury of 1 million R&D points. So we go to 5 red lights, and from the back of the grid, we are underway for this French Grand Prix Season 2 of this Red Bull career save. But it's a maxed out Red Bull a pixel on the Mercedes car off the line. It actually was a very good launch. I must say, I got off the line a lot better than I ever did in the Mercedes, and even in the My Team, actually, in a way. So, the Red Bull maybe a little bit better in terms of the chassis, maybe a little bit lighter. I didn't actually see the actual, you know, different department comparison. So, potentially, even though the total may be just about the same as Mercedes, maybe the Red Bull skewed to a bit of a lighter chassis, perhaps, because the engine is obviously going to be, you know, obviously a little bit less because it's the Honda engine versus the Mercedes, so I'd assume the maxed out potential is a little bit lower, and also the way the top heaviness kind of worked out with the R&D tree kind of makes sense. But either way, we're making fabulous progress. This car is very quick in a straight line. We go down the inside of, that's, I think, 4 cars. I think we literally overtook 4 cars there, or maybe even 5. It was nearly 4 wide. And it was a bit hairy with the McLaren or under braking, but we got the job done fairly easy. It wasn't really much of an issue. And now we're closing up to Ocon. We're already now up into P8. Could it be P7 as we try and get Leclerc around the outside, feed in the power, good downforce, and the thing's just gripping. So we go down the inside of now Sergio Perez. This corner I always have issues with anyway, no matter what car it is. So a bit of a lock up there going wide, but I would literally do that in every car, no matter how good it was, basically. And then through the last corner, nearly caught Sainz into the final one, but can't quite get it. But that's ridiculous. We're already up into P6 then, and it's the end of lap 1. So, yeah, stacking up against the normal cars, the Red Bull, even if it's the same versus the Mercedes, it certainly, I can say, felt a little bit punchier. You know, the acceleration was there, the nose was very pointy. Kind of shouldn't be surprising in a way, because obviously in real life Verstappen does love a very pointy front end, and that's why the Red Bull car is very pointy and very on edge, and that's maybe why Albon's struggling a little bit this year, because he generally doesn't mind if it's a bit more oversteery and doesn't have that kind of pointiness in his straight line. So trying to make a move now on Ricciardo up into P4, so really just basically getting towards the podium now, and we're only on the end of lap 2, and the only other 2 cars left to overtake are the 2 Mercedes cars. We're not going to catch Verstappen, of course. I don't ever catch any of my teammates, basically, because they get a massive head start, of course, being right at the front with a maxed out car, no traffic like they usually would do in career mode if we're doing last question mark, and my teammate was at the forefront, kind of a la like almost the Italian Grand Prix we just did in my team. So the only 2 cars left to catch then are the Mercedes cars, and well, the very car we drove last time in this experiment, and now looking so slow these days. So I would say then, overall, if we compared the 3 cars we've done so far, the characteristics, overall lap time, the My Team car is still the best. On paper, it's still the best, of course. In terms of feeling mid-corner, I would say the Mercedes is the best, felt the most planted, off acceleration, and the kind of dartingness, if that's not really a word, but just take it, of the front end and how quickly you can maneuver the car and weave through. I would say the Red Bull. There are times here on that opening lap where I got quite close to the rear end, I think it was out of an AlphaTauri, and I was able just to snake around him. And then also just the confidence I have to kind of nosedive this car in and try that big lunge compared to, well, my current My Team car, which is maxed out in our career mode of ours, our full career mode series, of course, so I can actually compare it quite nicely, and it felt a lot better on the front end. But I can tell overall, I can even tell that I'm going slower than I would in the My Team car, because there's just that little lack of oomph with the engine, little lack of extra downforce maybe here and there that you find with the My Team car. But certainly to drive, as any maxed out car would be, very nice and very different in many regards. So if you're ever wondering if you're going to play driver career mode and drive in the Red Bull compared to the Mercedes in My Team, there's a kind of a nice picture of what it kind of feels like and drives like. In terms of lap times, we're going to now quickly head over to Austria next, just to put a banker on Austria to see how close we can get and see how much slower the Red Bull car maybe is compared to the Mercedes and My Team maxed out car. Obviously with the pinch of salt, because I'm the one driving. I'm not the best driver out there by any stretch of the imagination, and of course it's very, you know, I'm not the Stig. It's going to be kind of on the day, can I get the good lap in basically with the car, but let's see. So back to our familiar F1 2020 maxed out realm, Austria, the obsession with trying to get close to the 60-second lap time. I don't actually know, I don't even remember what the obsession is with Austria in 60 seconds. Can you guys, if any of you guys were here when we first started doing this in F1 2018, I think it was? Well, I can't actually remember the origins of why me and now all of you guys are obsessed with experimenting cars with 60 seconds on Austria. I don't know why it became the benchmark, because we could have done it at any other circuit. I guess maybe because 60 seconds is quite a nice round number. Maybe that's why it's a benchmark time to aim for. But anyway, so far, we were 5/10 off on that first run you would have seen. So that's maybe a 10th or 2 slower than I did in the Mercedes car, and then a further 10th slower than what I did in my team, because I think in my team, in the experiment video, I think I got 1/10 above 60 seconds, and then in my actual career mode, I got under 60 seconds. Mercedes, I think the best one I did was 1:00.25 or a 0.3, and on this better lap time here in Q2 of the race weekend, it's a 0.5. I could have maybe gone a little bit faster in Q3, maybe, if the track rubbers up even more, but I thought I'd leave it there because that really did feel like actually a really good lap for me in Q2 here in this Red Bull. So I think that's probably getting close to what I can do in this car. So on track, physically, the Red Bull car is a little bit slower than the Mercedes, but in certain scenarios, certain corners and different aspects, the Red Bull car actually does reign supreme, especially in acceleration, I would say, looking at the race starts and how punchy we were somehow some of those corners at France. But guys, if you did enjoy this experiment video, maxing out the Red Bull car, then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and let me know in the comments below which team you want to see me next do in this maxed out series on F1 2020. If you're new around here, do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.